Welcome back, ladies and gents. We are live now, as you can see, in Picks and Bans phase for game number 2 between Dark Passage and GameEksta. This is the Riot Turkey International Invitational Day number 2, and I believe it's the third tournament they've actually done, so it's quarter-final territory right now. I'm it's joined by Stress. As you can see, Lee Sin and Morgana have already been banned out.
Yeah, this time again, Dark Passage putting a lot of focus on Morgana, making sure that that's not there in that support role. I have a feeling we're going to see very similar bans to the previous game, and I wonder what GE will pick first. I wouldn't expect to see a Blitzcrank this time around, because especially if Thresh is open, I really feel like a first pick Thresh would be a pretty good thing for them to pick up. Last ban somewhere, there's going to be like a Lulu in here, maybe even a LeBlanc.
Yeah, I think Lulu was banned in game number 1, so it'd be quite interesting to see if it does again. There we go, has just been banned out from GE, and so has Yasuo, so I think they're pretty much identical bans from game number 1. Maybe Kha'Zix wasn't, not too sure. Either way, first pick again, looking like it's going to be Lucian. Last time around it was for Holy Phoenix, and this time it is going to be for Honos.
Yeah, Kha'Zix, these are exactly the same bands from either side, so just flipped around here. And the first pick on Lucian again, as you're saying, probably going to be followed up by a Caitlyn somewhere here. Renekton, very likely for Dark Passage to look at picking here. Maybe even a Ziggs in the middle lane, somewhere around there. It's going to be very similar to the previous game, I believe.
Well, Evelyn would certainly be a bit of a change of pace here for Dark Passage, but whether that will get locked in is still to be seen. And just going back to what you're saying before about Blitzcrank, I would be amazed if it gets picked in again. I think that Thresh is a character that every single support who plays at this level of play knows a great deal about, because he has been top tier for a very long time. So it would be quite amazing to me if Therapist didn't play the likes of a Thresh or a Leona. I'm pretty sure he has that in his back pocket.
Ooh, it looks like we're going to the League of Draven on this one. As, Oh, change over to Evelyn. I was going to make a comment about Jarvan. Evelyn's still a really good pick as well, so pretty strong in the jungle right now. Not too surprising to see Evelyn picked up here. Elise is available, but obviously had the nerfs on 4.4, so isn't seeing as much play as before. Still kind of strong, but stun reduction in the early game has kind of hit her a little bit hard.
Yeah, starting to see quite a bit more of Evelyn as well, especially in the EUS Challenger series that we also cast. It's been picked quite a few times actually, so not really out of the ordinary to see that running from the jungle. I would like to see a Thresh with Lucian. I think it's a very strong lane right now in the current meta and has been for a while, because of course you have the CC and then you got all the follow-up damage that Lucian brings to the table with his Piercing Light, Ardent Blaze and such. Also culling as well with Box is very strong.
Yeah, one of the absolute strongest lanes I think that there is. And speaking of strong lanes, Renekton up in that top lane. Actually a little surprised that he got through the first pick rotation from Dark Passage after being left open by GE. So I wonder what Dark Passage will go with to go against this. Shyvana is one way of fighting it. We've seen a lot of Ryze in the top lane as well recently. So there are a couple of options here. Trundle is a third option. Wonder whether Dark Passage will go with either of those. Looks like it might be the first one I talked about.
It looks like your gut feeling was the right one there, as they have hovered over Shyvana. They've got another 30-odd seconds to decide if they want to go for that one. I'm trying to think what support they're going to go with Draven, because typically you want to pick a support that has a lot of CC to maximize his threat in the laning phase, and also to keep him safe and keep him peeled from in team fights. Now Nami would definitely tick both of those boxes for the criteria that you need with a Draven, and also on top of that, when you have the whirling, the spinning axes I should say, and Tidecaller's Blessing, that is so much poke and burst damage on top of one another, especially when you hit around level 2 or 3, so I really do like that Nami pickup.
Oh, we're going to see the Troll being picked up here for Fabulous in that top lane. And yeah, as you said, Nami is a pretty good support for going alongside Draven. So that has all been locked in on the side of Dark Passage now. A pretty mixed composition, actually, out of Dark Passage. Nothing quite as cut and dry as the GE lineup is. And I don't expect that to be a Cogmore. Unless... No, I'm just going to wait for that to get locked in.
Yeah, it's kind of that jack of all trades composition that we talk about quite often, kind of can do a bit of everything, not really the master of anything as well, though. They do have very good peeling for Draven, I would say, with both Trundle and Nami. But their engage is going to very much come down to whether Nami can land those skill shots. If the Aqua Prison lands on the likes of a Lucian or potentially Gragas, if that gets locked in, that could give them the green light, the go-ahead to go all in. I would be very interested to see what their mid lane is going to be, though. If it's going to be something like an Orianna and go for a team fight, or maybe going to go for more of a burst-centric mid like Zed.
I have a feeling it's probably going to be that either Orianna or Nidalee, something like that. Typically, that's what you'll pick alongside an Eve, would be something that can either heal or shield and do a fair amount of damage at the same time. You tend to pick one of those utility mid laners just to allow Eve to kind of stay alive a little bit more. Zed doesn't really synergize quite as well, other than, of course, any subjugated foe from Trundle they're going to be able to pick up. Karma would be another champion that would fulfill a similar role, but typically hasn't seen as much mid lane play recently.
No, certainly not. Karma is by and large seen support. LeBlanc would definitely fit the bursty kind of mid lane that jumps in and just tries to cripple someone and jump back out again, and that's what they've actually locked in his stress. A pretty interesting composition, I gotta say, for Dark Passage.
Yeah, it's very mixed. It's actually not focused at all. Typically, when you see a team composition, you'll see that they either pick very strong lanes or a team fight around it. And Dark Passage have kind of got a bit of everything when you look at it.
Yeah, looking at GameEksta, they also have quite a few things going for them. You got the all-out engage from the likes of Pantheon, who can just Grand Skyfall behind and try and make some plays. And I also really like the Pantheon pick against Draven, because if Grand Skyfall comes in behind Draven and he already has burnt his flash, he's a very immobile champion. Yes, he has Blood Rush where he'll have movement speed, but if Pantheon gets behind him, they can actually lock down that kill very, very comfortably. So definitely one to watch out for at bot lane.
Luckily, though, we are just about to head into the game. Of course, no delay period because we are on the tournament realm, but for those of you watching on stream, you're on our 3-minute delay already, so you don't have to wait for the game, but you are behind what's actually happening in the game, so no spoilers.
Yes, no spoilers indeed. And game number 1, if you did just join us, went to Dark Passage. It was a very interesting is the only word that really comes to mind here, Stress. A very interesting game number 1 that could have been over a lot quicker than it actually was. A couple of strange decisions from both teams, some odd builds that we haven't seen a great deal of in the EU scene at least. So I'm going to be very interested to see how Holy Phoenix approaches Draven, because Draven is another one of those champions that there are a few different avenues you can go down with him.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I kind of expect him to go Bloodthirster into, Static Shift, that kind of line of thinking, but to be honest, after his build in the last game, I really don't know. I think we might have another Genja on our hands on this one, but you never know until you see Holy Phoenix start to build. But typically, Holy Phoenix is a really consistent laner, and it was actually a little bit surprising to see him stepping foot a little too forward and a little aggressively in the last game.
Yeah, his positioning at times was very, very, I don't want to say arrogant, but it was very aggressive. Taking the point when you have the likes of Renekton on your team and getting caught from Blitzcrank is never a good position to be in, and it did kind of cost his team a couple of pushes there. In terms of Draven, it's kind of similar. If you play too aggressive and you get caught, you're going to die. There is very little your team can do to save you, so this is going to be another interesting game, I have to feel, and this time around GE actually potentially going for a very aggressive push.
They do have Thresh, which is a very good champion for level 1s. You land one hook, you at least get the flash or kill. So, we'll see whether he can land that hook. Let's see if he's even taking it. No, he's actually taken Flay. Wants that extra damage and the disruption. So, a little bit less easy to get in range, but typically has a little bit more impact, perhaps, if you can land it on 2 members.
Yeah, definitely, and if you do see an opportunity, you can always flash and then flay afterwards and try and pick up a kill that way, but it doesn't seem they want to push in just yet. They may go in for a bit of a delayed push, and this could also signify, potentially, if they stay here, that they want a lane switch as well, because both their bot laners are situated at the top. However, as I'm speaking, they're both going to go ahead and recall, so it doesn't look like we're going to have any lane switch ups just yet.
Yeah, man, that flash reverse flay is one of the most difficult things to do in the game,
It is.
according to a lot of supports. That's when you know you're a good Thresh. Well, you can excuse the stuff that Mad Life does. Just forget about that because that's like extra special Thresh. That's like I am actually Thresh. I'm just kind of
Yes.
sat there playing the game. But yeah,
I
that
am.
flash reverse flay. It's just because of the movement. That if you're on
Mm.
Smartcast, is you've got to go one side of the screen and then angle at the exact angle to get the right flay.
It's so difficult that I actually turn Smartcast off when I'm playing Thresher's
Oh
Flay
really?
because because the amount of times I've screwed that ability up is insane. So I definitely know where you're coming from there. It's as you say, it is one of those kind of abilities that when you nail it, it actually feels quite rewarding.
It does, but also it can actually feel quite rewarding because you get to laugh when you miss it too.
True.
So that's why I leave Smartcast on. So when I mess that up, it's actually I get a chance to laugh at myself for a little bit.
It's all a ploy. You know, you want to inject that humor into the game
Meant
as well.
to do it.
Exactly. Planned. Well, interesting enough, actually, that's Nami starting with Tidecaller's Blessing. A lot of Namis will start with Q first to try and get the Aqua Prison down and secure some kills, but going for that early trading potential instead, and so far it's not really paying off for them, because Trials took quite a bit of damage. They hit level 2 first, though.
Yeah, it's a matter of seconds, but
Yep.
it's one of those things that neither team really able to capitalize on. And as you said, Tidecaller's Blessing is going to give it that little bit extra harass potential, but I think right now they need a pick to be able to get much work done here because G is just kind of surviving through a lot of this.
Yeah, Honos is going to be pretty comfortable, I have to say, unless an Aqua Prison lands directly on his head. And even then, once he hits 3, is in fact, he's gone for Relentless Pursuit second, so he's going to be pretty much A-OK right now. And on top of that, you've got Thresh who's just lurking around, so quite a difficult lane, I've got to say, for Holy Phoenix to make big plays out of. It may very well come down to that jungle intervention once again.
Yeah, and we actually see junglers, you can see Pantheon went very aggressive, getting a ward down onto the Wolves camp. This is very smart when playing against an Evelynn. You ward onto her camp so you can spot her out as she comes around through the jungle, but she's already into the mid lane. It's not going to be able to get anywhere with that, but Pantheon standing on a ward in the bottom lane, they're not going to get much done down there either.
The question is, do Dark Passage want to play this off like they don't know he's there and waste his time? Because ultimately that's exactly what's happening. Pantheon is not going to get a kill out of this one unless something crazy happens, and therefore every second he spends down here is basically time that he could be somewhere else. This is also giving some information to the opposition jungle. This Crystal Meth goes to top lane, gets the first blood as he flashes in. And as I was going to say, Stress, I mean, the fact you know where the opposition jungle is allows you to freely just go to top lane and gank.
There's a couple of little questionable things there. Crystal flashed forward, didn't get the kill. It was actually the Ignite that picked up the kill from Fabulous. And another point is that Hyos should not have been playing that aggressive. They had it the ward down on Wolves. They knew that was really the only other camp that Eve could have been on. You assume that because she was mid, Wraiths would have been taken. From there, it's either Wolves or she's at Golems coming top. So you have to play defensively, and they let her get into the lane. So it's just a little bit surprising there because Eve isn't going to go from the top side of mid to bottom or back, really. So that was just a little bit of not using the vision that you had on the map to your advantage, and actually kind of makes that Wolves ward redundant.
Yeah, that lapse in concentration can make all the difference, and as you say, it wasn't Evelynn who picked up the first blood, it was actually Trundle, so that's going to go from bad to worse for Hyos, who also went through his flash, so that's down for another 225 seconds. So again, pretty much everything that could have gone wrong just did for Hyos at top lane.
Yeah, I wonder how he's going to play the rest of this lane out, because now he's going to be a little bit trickier to trade in that top lane. You look at the Vamp Scepter and the double cloth armor. That and Fabulous, I believe, should be a little bit ahead on experience. Yeah, ever so slightly. He's about 2 minions up on experience on Hyos, so it's one of those things that there's a bottom lane engage.
Yeah, Aqua Prison did land, and again, Crystal in the right place at the right time. Draven will be getting the kill. And this is another difference between the two junglers. In game number 1, it was actually the opposition jungler who was playing Wukong, so Lord, and he took all the kills, whereas Evelynn's already gave his top solo lane a kill and his AD carry a kill, so they're both starting to just chug along.
That gold distribution is going to work out really nicely for Dark Passage as well, and this is one of these things about playing as Evelynn is you have to use your knowledge, the knowledge that you can obtain from your warding, when you have them out there, but then play very carefully and very smartly when you don't have the wards necessary to track her, and it's not something that GE are really doing on either side of that coin.
Yeah, and I've got to say as well that on top of everything else, it's not even the case that Gragas is able to push super hard through mid, and when the other two lanes are basically losing, Gragas needs to step up, and unfortunately against the LeBlanc it's not going to be too easy to do, because now Evelyn's got the other two lanes rolling, can kind of focus mid a tiny bit more.
And that's going to be a problem for GE here, is if Evelyn starts focusing a LeBlanc and LeBlanc starts getting kills. She's already up on CS as well, by the way, in that middle lane. Hasn't even... well, it's a product of her not going back yet, but if LeBlanc can get rolling and start getting some kills, then that's going to be really difficult to deal with from that middle lane perspective.
Yep, speaking of LeBlanc, we'll be recalling with 1.6k, so... maybe going for Phoenix Codex, something like that. Maybe building towards the Athenes and Holy Grail. Either way, Fabulous and Hyos are both the top lane, just mashing upon one another. Hyos is very close to death, but with that Dominus, is going to be okay. And in fact, it will be the Chalice of Harmony that's picked up with another Doran's Ring.
Down in the bottom lane, stand aside lands.
It does, not looking good for Thresh. Is going to be finding himself dead for the second time. And Holy Phoenix manages to cash some of those Adoration stacks for the second time as well. Already has a BF sword. And already starting to get quite a long way ahead of Lucian in terms of goals.
It was actually an Aqua Prism that started that off. I thought it was just a stand aside, but it was a really nice Aqua Prism there from Nami, making sure they got that kill. Dragon is available should they choose to go for it, although Eve this early on isn't the best at securing Dragon. Looks like they might choose to invade on the red. No, just going to ward it. Okay. Okay.
They're looking to set a big play up here, but it just didn't really work. So they're going to back away. Kind of anticlimactic. They are potentially going back in, though.
Crystal really wants this, but it is kind of just going in and then pulling back, and isn't really feeling too confident on this one.
Well, top lane, Fabulous could be falling down here, turning it back around. Here comes the Ignite. Is it going to be enough to secure this kill? No, it's not. And Fabulous will be going down without retaliating. Also on top of that, the red steal was not successful, and Crystal has to back on away.
And I was watching the red steal. Orspeksa smite the red early, and Crystal just wasn't committing, and had smite available, could have just smite steal the red away, but chose not to. Color me confused.
That is quite odd. I didn't catch that myself because I was looking at top, but from what you're saying, I mean, that doesn't really add up. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I think he was just out of the range, but it's one of those things that he was far enough away to have been in stealth if he'd have been close enough for smite, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. Well, Evelyn, however, will be getting a second take at the red buff and taking her own instead. And meanwhile, in mid, Exap is trying to back on away. I believe that's an Ignite ticking down, courtesy of Nara. Indeed, it is. So just get chunked down a tiny bit there. Needs to be a bit careful because Naru could go back in for the second bite and potentially secure that kill.
Dark Passage knew that Pantheon was down in that bottom lane, landed in Aqua Prison because that bush is warded for them, and now they're going to go aggressive, knowing that here comes the Grand Skyfall, though.
This is what I was talking about in the picks and bans. Draven is very susceptible to these type of ganks. That's exactly what's happened, and Pantheon picks up the double kill. As the pause comes in from... I didn't even catch who that was from, actually. Fabulous.
So, Dark Passage with the pause. Now, Draven was moving around before that, so I don't think that was a disconnect. So that's an interesting one. Maybe TeamSpeak died or something like that. That typically is one of the faster pauses to work through. But that was a really nice worked gank. It's Naru actually disconnecting. So thankfully it wasn't Holy Phoenix that disconnected. That was a really well worked gank down in the bottom lane, using Pantheon's strengths to their advantage by the fact that just because he had to leave lane doesn't mean he can't appear in lane.
Exactly, and this is one of the main drawbacks of Draven, that if you do have a hypermobile jungler, so for example your Evelyns, your Nocturnes, your Pantheons and such, that can suddenly appear out of thin air, you are very, very vulnerable if your flash is on cooldown, or indeed if you are caught way behind enemy lines and there's a long way back to your tower, because Pantheon will come up behind you, get the stun off, and then the opposition bot lane can just capitalize on that and pick up the kill. So that is definitely something to watch out for. This is one of the reasons why a lot of Draven players like to leave the laning phase as soon as possible, so that you can start to utilize that burst damage that he's really feared for having, and you don't have to deal with the drawback to the laning phase.
Yeah, that's very true. And you look at how it's going for Draven as well. Yes, he has 2 kills. Down on CS, though, against a Lucian is somewhat to be expected. But those 2 kills onto Pantheon could have... One of them, at least, could have gone over to Lucian. I would have liked to have seen that gold getting spread out a little bit. But it's something that we've seen from GameEksta in the previous game, is actually they give a lot of kills over to their jungler.
They do, yeah. I believe I'm pulling this stat out of thin air, but I think it was 5-1 Wukong was at one stage, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, I know he was 4-1. I think he went to 5-2 off an engagement, if I remember rightly.
He had a large bulk of the kills on his team, and a lot of those were kind of 50-50s, where you say, okay, fair enough, he just got the last hit or whatever. But I agree with you. I think one of those kills certainly could have gone across to Lucian and started to accelerate himself back into this game, because with those adoration stacks that Draven got early on, that is 700 gold ahead for Draven at bot lane. So that kill would have been super, super good for Lucian, building towards the Bloodthirster. That's pretty much what I'm expecting him to go for. He's got the BF sword at the moment, and typically that's what Lucian would do, go for the Bloodthirster as his first core item, unless you happen to be Holy Phoenix and you're just going to go for the IE. A bit strange, but whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those things that that's what we expect. Doesn't always work out that way, but play is being resumed, so thankfully Naru is back in this game. I think GE probably going to rotate up towards Dragon here. Ward goes over the side from Naru as he reconnects into the game, so they're going to be able to spot this one out.
You do need to be a little careful though, because if Crystal and Naru manage to pull a play together, they have quite a bit of burst damage. Are they going to try and steal this one away though? Crystal coming around from the side, there's a Whirling Death as well. In the meanwhile, Agnes Embrace comes through and Pantheon does secure that dragon, but that was very, very close.
It was a close attempt there by Crystal. Used the Agony's Embrace as well. Got that extra shield just as she went into the dragon area, but not able to come away with it. Fabulous gets very low up in that top lane. Doesn't have Subjugate available either, as just desperately trying to lifesteal his way back up here.
Yeah, I've got to say that without much jungle intervention at top, Fabulous is certainly coming out second best at this top exchange. He actually is going to fall as I'm talking there, just being a bit too aggressive. And without any jungle interference, that is actually Renekton 16 CS ahead and 2-1 over Trundle, so really accelerating himself.
And typically that's what happens in a Renekton Trundle lane. I mean, it's a little bit less aggressive than this lane has been. Ward comes out from Crystal, spots out Hyos, but Hyos has a lot of damage here. I wouldn't trade with him.
He certainly does, but LeBlanc is coming up in the form of cavalry, so now Hyos finds himself in a really bad position, and he will be taken down courtesy of LeBlanc. So that gets Naru back into the game somewhat. 1-0 now in the mid lane.
I had visions of Crystal dying before LeBlanc even got up there, though, if I'm being honest. So, good decision to pull back from that one and let Naru pick up the kill. But typically, Renekton against Trundle isn't as easy a matchup as the Trundle-Shyvana matchups that we've seen from time to time. Takes a little bit more punishment in lane, does Trundle, from Renekton. So, not too surprising to see Renekton a little bit ahead here. But Trundle, of course, will scale very well later and later into the game.
Yeah, Trundle will become massive when you get towards the 30-odd minute mark, and that's definitely where you'll start to see, I would say around level 10 to 12 is when Trundle will start to outscale Renekton, depending on how far behind he is, and that's really where Trundle comes into his own, and where you'll start to see the Troll just chasing down players, popping down the Pillar of Filth, and really trying to make big plays happen. In fact, it's a Pillar of Ice now, isn't it? I need to get out of the, old school.
Yeah, but, I mean, how long ago was that updated?
I actually don't even know. It's been a while.
It has been quite a while, but once you've been casting move names and stuff like that for a good amount of time, you kind of don't always adapt to the changes as fast as some maybe the newer players to Trundle. So you know, I forgive you. I forgive you, Vince.
It's just Pillar of Filth sounds so much cooler. It's the idea behind it. Pillar of Ice is like, meh. There's loads of characters that have ice. Well, for some reason, whenever I think of Pillar of Ice, I think of Anivia, and I have no idea why. I just think of a wall.
Well, whenever you say Pillar of Filth, I always think of the band Cradle of Filth.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what that reminds me of.
Well, it's going to be Thresh, well and truly caught at bot lane, however. Although, is it going to be the bait and switch? Because here comes the Grand Skyfall, and it's also going to be Tidal Wave just exchanging abilities and summoners left, right, and center. Looks like Crystal is going to get the upper hand in this exchange, though. Now chasing after the AD carry, Tidecaller's Blessing doing work, and that is going to be the third kill for Holy Phoenix, who's going super aggressive, gets the double kill, and he will be able to catch the axe, spin himself back towards his own tower, and LeBlanc takes down the third. So what looked like a pretty good engage there from GE completely backfires.
Yeah, that really didn't work out for them as they would have liked. I didn't quite see whether Evelyn revealed herself before the fight or not, but GE definitely getting caught off guard there, and Holy Phoenix diving behind the tower to make sure he picks up that second kill. Meanwhile, top lane, Fabulous now has a 2-level disparity down against Hyos, and Hyos is going to be forced out to Dominus after the Subjugate. That'll call the end to that engage.
It will, and this is putting Hyos slightly ahead, but he's taking quite a bit of punishment from this tower, forcing the flash away and gets the kill and the slice and dice. However, here comes Crystal from the side. Should be able to secure this kill. Flash has been used from Hyos. Now, can he get that damage down? No, he can't. And Crystal will answer the call of his Swollen Comrade there, as Fabulous has 10 seconds left on his Death Chamber.
Crystal's doing a really good job of cleaning up after Fabulous, but the problem is Fabulous is dying every time this happens, and that's not always the best thing, is to be trading 1 for 1 when you're ahead, because it gets you slightly more ahead, but your opponents actually kind of benefit from it a little bit more when you consider that when you're ahead you should just be getting more ahead, not allowing your opponents to keep up in time with you. So it's a little bit of a play that they really shouldn't be making.
And this is also, because Fabulous is suffering so bad, it's like a case of Crystal almost feels compelled to staying at the top half of the map. And this is allowing Draven, in the meanwhile, to try his best to go ahead at bot lane. Indeed, he's been doing that so far. But at some point, Lucian is going to be able to start to claw his way back, because Draven is not the best scaling AD carry in the game. Like, by any stretch of the imagination, he will start to fall off, especially if he gets caught from Grand Skyfall, which is coming down right about now. Is it going to be take number 2, though? Because Evelyn's here. Tidal Wave comes through. He's going to be landing on both Pantheon and Thresh. They take down that first kill. Draven is securing all of these kills for himself, is hungry for the kill on Thresh and gets the double kill. Moves on 6-1. My goodness, that's a big Holy Phoenix now.
That is what you need under Draven, though. He doesn't scale amazingly well unless you have 6 kills at the 16-minute mark.
Yes.
So that's pretty good if you're Dark Passage, keeping themselves in a situation where that Draven is going to remain relevant for a very long time in this game now.
Definitely true. That ought to do it for an AD carry if you get 6 kills in the laning phase, especially as a Draven who will cash in those stacks of Adoration. Already has 1.7k gold, and it seems like just a few moments ago when he recalled, has gone for the Bloodthirster. Stress, so you called that one. You're expecting Bloodthirst into Static Shiv. Could very well be on the cards. Dragon, however, has been picked up from Dark Passage again.
He's actually 2.7k gold ahead of Honos. These might be able to pick up the kill. No, not able to get it because of the barrier out from Honos this time. But that was 3 people committed to that. The shutdown gold went again to the jungler.
It did, and that was pretty crucial, honestly. Again, though, Holy Phoenix kind of being super aggressive. Even if he did secure the kill onto Lucian, he was still definitely dying. Again, top lane, Hyos and Fabulous going at it. This time, Fabulous is actually coming out ahead and starting to reach that power spike as we were talking about previously. Can he secure this kill? However, he's still in hot pursuit. Will be putting down the Dormant Domain. Does get the kill, actually, in the end from Fabulous, and there's me derping. It's Frozen Domain, not Dormant Domain. That would make no sense. It seems like Trundle is my difficult character to remember, like all of his abilities. Subjugate. There we go. I remembered one.
You got it. You got Subjugate. The other one's pretty easy as well. Chomp.
Knowing me, I'd mess that one up as well.
Chimp, probably.
Yeah.
Oh wow, nice double bubble in the bottom.
Yeah, double bubble is probably gonna signify the end. In fact, Holy Phoenix is taking quite a bit of punishment right now. Crystal from the backside, Agony's Embrace, Ignite's been used as well. And that for me is the main difference. As I'm talking, at top lane, I believe that was Pantheon killed Trundle as well. But, on one side you've got Pantheon picking up all the kills, on the other side you've got Draven picking up all the kills. AD carry is always going to scale better in terms of raw damage.
Yeah, especially when they can do this with that. They can convert those kills into what is likely to be a push into the bottom lane. It's going to take them a while, and I think Hyos is going to be able to stop this, but actually Hyos is going to take a fair amount of damage from Draven as well. So, not too much they can do against an 8-2 Draven right now, and he's just half health that tower convincingly.
And again, he just went back to spawn, finished off his Phantom Dancer and Berserker Greaves, comes back to lane, 1.5k gold to spend. Like, how do you deal with this? Well, probably not chasing at his face. Grand Skyfall is coming around from the backside, however, although it was cancelled from Pantheon, realising that was a completely pointless pursuit, and in doing so, RO8 actually falls down.
Yeah, it's a good thing they cancelled it. That would have been more kills going to Holy Phoenix if they didn't. So, yeah, that was a smart choice to cancel that, but I mean, they've lost a lot of damage on that middle lane tower. That's an easy free rotation out by Holy Phoenix. They need to catch him out here. They need to get some work done as well, because they need to start taking objectives from this.
Holy Phoenix again, super aggressive, but this actually could be the end. Good Guy Triel blocks all of the culling shots, and that will buy Holy Phoenix up enough time to retreat back to his own tower. Also, LeBlanc was hungry for some kills there on red buff, but it doesn't look likely right now.
Yeah, Naru feels a little bit left out in this game. 2 kills to his name there on LeBlanc, so would like to have a couple more on this one, but I think them giving a lot of the gold over to Draven in the long term will kind of suit them very well.
Naru is going to be falling, and surprise, Pantheon takes down the kill. So he's getting huge, 5-2, carbon copy from last game.
A little bit, I don't know, I think if I was on GE right now, I'd be like, come on, dude, give us the kills.
Yeah, greed isn't always good. Fabulous is taking a bit of punishment from the tower, however, Exap has to back away. He's flashing up red there, as you can see on the left of your screen, and this tower is very low actually. Grand Skyfall coming in, will it be cancelled this time? Doesn't look likely. Fabulous is taking the brunt of the damage, Tidal Wave from the side as well, trying to surf Dark Passage away from this one. But actually, GE give up the chase. They realise they're not strong enough.
One of the important things to note about the gold distribution as well is when you look at a 5-2 Pantheon, he's building damage only, and the thing about that is, of course, that's what Pantheon wants to do. There's obviously no issues with that. The problem with that is, unless he can get into the backline and obliterate Holy Phoenix, he'll die just as quick as anybody else will on his team, and at that point you lose all of that gold lead on that role. So it's one of those things that it's all down to blowing up Holy Phoenix instantly in team fights, and Holy Phoenix gets that tower in the bottom lane. That was an easy rotation for him. Mid lane is very low as well still, so that is another point of contention here for Dark Passage.
Crucible's a really nice pickup from Triel as well. For Draven, basically. Randuin's Omen from Evelynn on top of that, and Athene's and Holy Grail first pick with the components of Rabadon's Death Cap for LeBlanc in mid is, as soon as that Rabadon's Death Cap is finished off, that's when the real fireworks will begin from LeBlanc, from Naru. So all across the board, not looking too good. Also, Trundle is now starting to force back Hyos. So for all of that early trading potential Renekton had and all of the upper hand he had, and that's pretty much gone against him right now. He is getting outscaled.
Yep, that's the problem with that Renekton-Trundle matchup, is in the end, Trundle kind of just ends up winning out. You can see him subjugates down onto Renekton. Requires Gragas to be here, though, for the assist.
He does. Hyos still kind of staying in the back lines, going to be flashing in. Fabulous taking a bunch of damage. There is the Pillar of Ice. There is the secure of the kill on Gragas as well. So at least they do get that first kill on Gragas after 23 minutes.
Committing 2 into that top lane, though, means that bottom lane is getting pushed heavily by Dark Passage. Mid lane ended up falling. It was only on low health anyway, so it was going to go down. But now they're going to catch on for a fight.
They are. That's Thrash taking quite a bit of damage himself. Whirling Death comes through. Quite optimistic there from Holy Phoenix, trying to secure the kill on Thrash, I believe. But does also get a bit of vision as well, just seeing how many players are around this area. Without the creep wave, they're not going to be able to push down this tower, but they've still done a fair chunk of damage to this mid lane.
He's up to 1,800 gold again on his person, probably around about 2,000 now that he's taken those extra minions. It looks like he's building towards an Infinity Edge. Either that or a Mercurial Scimitar, one of the two. But they've caught on to Lord of Specs here.
That is plenty of escape, though, from Pantheon. Both the Dark Passage, and I believe he used his stun on Crystal to also get away from the majority of the damage. And yeah, the Bloodthirster certainly, the BF Sword could certainly be going for another Infinity Edge, because there's not a huge amount of armor actually on the opposition. I mean, you look at Pantheon, has pretty much no armor. You look at Renekton, pretty much no armor, so he doesn't really need a Last Whisper right now.
Yep, could just go for that maximizing damage from the Infinity Edge. We'll see what he does pick up. He's sat on 2,400 gold right now, so it's a matter of time before he backs. But something we've seen out of Holy Phoenix is he's not really optimizing his back times in the best way. We saw in the previous game him get to 3,000 gold in the laning phase before even considering going back. But really, they're so far ahead on him that he has enough damage to be doing enough damage in team fights to clean everything up anyway.
They're putting a lot of the eggs in the Holy Phoenix basket as well. They're allowing him to have blue buff. I mean, fair enough, LeBlanc was back at spawn, so it wasn't really on the cards, but they do give that one across to Holy Phoenix, and now he's going to try and put down some damage, and indeed he will. If that standard side had have landed, that could have spelled doom for Hyos. Instead, Holy Phoenix again being hyper aggressive, and he will manage to pull himself back. This could be top tower falling though. Grand Skyfall comes in, Pantheon. I'm not too sure you want to go in for this one. Indeed he does, and they jump on Holy Phoenix, so actually this could look pretty good for them. However, they turn this one back around. Tidal Wave goes down, Whirling Death as well. That's going to be both Renekton and Pantheon falling in quick succession. Now here comes Thresh from the backside, going to be a very similar story. Exap from the top is also going to be knocked down. 4-for-0 trade. And that's pretty much the power of a Draven, just flashing out of all the damage and then just returning it in kind.
I've actually disconnected right before that fight, so I have to reconnect to the game, unfortunately.
Alrighty, no problem. Basically 4-for-0 trade, and now Dark Passage going for Baron. That is pretty much where we're at Stress. So you just missed a bit of a team fight there. Basically everyone went in on top of Holy Phoenix. He flashes out, Tidal Wave comes in from Nami. I believe Mikhail's Crucible was also used to stop the stun, and then they just mopped up everybody on GE. He pretty much came in single file, so it was a very one-sided fight in the end.
Okay, I'm just in the loading screen again, just about to finish the load, so hopefully I can get back in. That would be really nice. But I had that spectated issue where everybody just kind of stands still. There we go, I'm in the game again.
Yeah, so pretty much Dark Passage just taking the bull by the horns, I should say. And actually, it's not going to be Infinity Edge, going for the Mercurial Scimitar, which is quite an interesting pickup, I've got to say. Plus the GA. GA makes a lot of sense because you're Draven, you're fed, you want to keep in the fight for as long as possible, but a lot of players feel that Mercurial Scimitar isn't the most cost-efficient item for an AD carry, that typically you finish that last.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, I was speaking to a couple of AD carries, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of the least efficient item in the game for the upgrade cost, so kind of surprising to see that picked up at this point. Typically, it's like a 6th item, but for Draven to go double defensive item here is actually fairly surprising. But you were commenting earlier on the fact that there's not all that much armor, so a Last Whisper wouldn't actually give that too much more. So yeah, we're still in this situation where the armor levels are pretty low here on the side of GE. So I think Draven's actually kind of safe enough to go and do this anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the reasons why there's not that much armor is because you're against Evelyn, who's going to be AP jungle, and also LeBlanc. So you want to probably go towards the magic resistance instead, which is why Spirit Visage has been picked up on Renekton. And interestingly enough, Pantheon actually took those kills and tried to build aggressive with a lot of AD. It's not really working. As I'm talking, though, Aqua Prism and Death Sentence are both exchanged from the two supports. Here comes the Explosive Cask as well from Gragas. The tower is going down slowly but surely. However, Pantheon is going to be forced to back away because he's so low. Cullen comes through and actually does a lot of damage there from Lucian, and will manage to buy them a little bit more time.
Yeah, there was a barrel roll mixed in there as well that really chunked through a lot of the members of Dark Passage. But with that Baron on, they're able to heal up very, very quickly, although Crystal's going to drop from being a little too aggressive there.
I think that was a barrel roll plus a spear from Pantheon on top of one another. I'm not too sure. I caught the tail end of that.
Well, all about stacking their mobility. Wow, that's so much damage, but Holy Phoenix gets locked down.
He has popped his Mercurial Scimitar, though, just to get away. And this is one of the perks, I guess. If you're going to play super aggressive, then make sure you have the defensive items to back yourself up. And that's exactly what he just did. And he's also got that Bloodthirst stuff, so he's going to be able to lifesteal his way back up to full health very, very comfortably indeed. With the Baron buff as well stressed, they can afford to siege for quite a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, and G have managed to stall out Dark Passage for now, but a pick like this would be pretty catastrophic. It's enough to get that much. Oh, yeah, he gets it. Okay. Looked like the Ignite just managed to pick that one up.
Yeah, just about with the last tick, I think. And Holy Phoenix and Triel, the bot lane from Dark Passage, seem to be on a solo mission, just the two of them, trying to pick up as many kills and objectives as possible as LeBlanc and also Evelyn are starting to come in now. Trundle's probably going to split push top, and we saw this in game number 1 as well, where they had like 4 players stacked mid, and then the tankiest and the one that was able to duel just goes in the solo lane and applies pressure elsewhere.
Man, that's a lot of damage out from a Draven right now, but hook doesn't quite land. One of the things we were mentioning earlier, though, is if it is Lord of Spexer that gets picked off, there's not really a lot that GE can do, because that's where so much of their gold is stacked, that really, if he gets picked off like that again, Dark Passage might be able to capitalize a little bit better if their waves are pushed out further, which, of course, they're in the process of doing.
Exactly. You look at the difference, the discrepancy between the two AD carries items, or indeed the two mid laners items as well, and you've got a full Void Staff over Gragas from LeBlanc, which is really significant for 30 minutes through, and then there's just a massive gaping hole between Holy Phoenix and the AD carry, Honos from GE, and they may be going for a desperation engage here, but they don't land the death sentence. That's pretty much going to be the end of this one. That's the other problem as well. They either need to go all in with Pantheon to engage behind them, or land a death sentence, and if neither of them happen, they've got no way of really doing anything.
There's not a lot of ways of doing too much as it is. I hate being too negative about things, but I mean, the one thing that GE have going for them is that their inhibitor towers are still intact, and I feel like you can win any game, especially if Holy Phoenix goes this aggressive, but the rest of the team are catching on.
He actually flashed into that death sentence and instantly cleansed out of it. However, Thresh is going to be taking just so much damage that he's going to fall down. Whirling Death comes through, that will force the rest of them away, and even though that was a really sloppy engagement Dark Passage, they're going to pick up the inhibitor tower and inhibitor itself and look to push forward in mid.
They're kind of split focus here, though.
They are. Holy Phoenix has been caught out. He has a GA though, so even if he falls down, he will be coming back up. The question is there going to be enough of his team to support him when he does do so? Yes, there is. Grand Skyfall comes in. Crystal is taking the brunt of the damage right now, but still, you've got Holy Phoenix. He's actually life-stealing his way back up from those creeps. Now going to be rejoining the fight. Crushes down a couple players. Double kill. Strange culling there from Honos, aiming towards the top of the map, and that is going to be a 3-for-1 trade. Fabulous has been caught underneath the tower, but you've got Holy Phoenix still, who's just running rampant into the fountain looking for that kill. Now meanwhile, the rest of his team are looking to push down more objectives.
He's actually going to try and get caught out by Thresh here. He's playing very aggressive here. Gets flayed backwards and he's going to try and 2v1. This isn't really what you want to do. Man, Holy Phoenix.
This guy is so ballsy. I've never seen someone push the boundaries as much as Holy Phoenix in these two games.
I'm also not sure how Honos didn't actually kill him there.
Yeah, exactly. He's getting away with murder time and time again. It must be very frustrating actually from GE. It's like one of those games where somehow the AD carry or mid laner manages to survive time and time again with like sub 100 HP left.
Not sure how that happened. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like Honos was one auto attack away from killing him, but let's take a quick look. How much gold? 3,000 gold on Holy Phoenix right now. So that goes instantly into the Last Whisper. So if he was doing damage then, now he's going to be doing so much more. Mid lane Naru is dominating.
I feel like GE have given up because Gragas literally just ultimated to secure 2 creeps in mid.
Nice.
I'm not sure if you caught that, but it was strange. It was very odd. And then they went and towered over against LeBlanc. Then they've lost the second player. So this is probably the final curtain coming down right now for GE.
Yeah, I have to feel like this is the final cut here as Dark Passage go aggressive into the base again. I have a feeling that Trundle's just going to tank this up. Looks like Pantheon just cancelled his ultimate inside the base, but Dark Passage just waiting on them super minions.
They are just biding their time. 2 players down for over 10 seconds. That's the first Nexus Tower falling. They could just straight up finish this game because G don't look too interested, and even if they were, there's nothing they can do to stop this. So game number 2 will very likely in the next few moments be going to Dark Passage. In fact, they're going to go for more kills instead. Tidal Wave coming across. LeBlanc will pick up that kill on Pantheon. And actually, Triel has caught himself a death sentence, and it will be living up to its name. That being said, though, Nexus has been finished off. That's going to be the 2-0 in this all-Turkish affair to Dark Passage.
That was pretty convincing by Dark Passage, just in general. Game 1 and Game 2, they were pretty much in control the entire series long, so they will advance into our semi-finals.
They will indeed be doing so, and I think a lot of people were expecting Dark Passage to go all the way into the grand finale. Remember, though, there is Cloud9 Eclipse, which we casted yesterday, Stress, so I think they're able to both get through to the finals. I don't think they're on the same half of the brackets. I'm pretty sure they're not.
on opposite sides.
Yes, so they definitely could be seeing a grand finale between Dark Passage and Cloud9 Eclipse. That could be on the cards.
Very possible. And speaking of Cloud9 Eclipse, I believe they will be coming up in our next series of the evening, going up against ESC Gaming. That is going to be coming to you guys in a very, very short amount of time as we get the teams all in the lobby and get ourselves ready for that second quarterfinal of the day. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes here on Chaos TV.